Thank you so much for joining us today. We have with us Rosie Mansfield of Luxury Barge Canal Cruises. During the webinar, we will keep everybody muted, but there is a questions and chat section if you think of something while we're going through. We'll make sure we address any questions that come through during the presentation, or if there's anything we miss, we'll make sure we follow up via email. And without further ado, Rosie, would you mind going ahead and taking it off?
Thank you, Christina, and thank you so much for hosting me today, and to everybody in the audience who's joining us for this webinar. It's my absolute pleasure to be here in collaboration with VacationPort to bring to you travel advisors in this network a really special type of cruise. It's something that you may never have seen before, possibly heard of, but this is a wonderful chance to work with us to bring a very special type of cruise to your clients. And today we're going to look at how, hand in hand, we can bring luxury French canal cruising to your luxury clients. So I'll kick off by just running through the agenda. And first of all, I will take you through who we are, French Waterways, our company and our people, and what makes us so special as a company and why you'll want to work with us for your clients. I'll talk about what is hotel barging, because although some people might have an idea, or maybe you can guess, and maybe you've seen pictures of it before, I want to really break down what is involved in a hotel barge cruise, where we cruise, what regions of France and beyond France, and then also who is it for, who is hotel barging for, who will get the most out of it, who will value it, and help you to try and put together maybe a mental list in your head of what clients you should bring this to and say, I've got the next amazing holiday for you lined up. I'll take you through how to make an inquiry with us, and then there will be question and answer time at the end for anything that I might have missed, or any burning questions that you have about hotel barge cruising.
You're using the word barge and not ship, and that's something we kind of touched on just a little bit before we started, because I actually don't even know the difference. Would you be able to kind of tell us what's the difference between a ship and a barge, and why it's so important to make sure that you know which one you're talking about?
Yeah, absolutely. So if we think about river ship cruising in France, for example, you will have somewhere between 110 to 160 passengers on board. These are small ship cruises that go down the inland waterways with the rivers of France. They are wonderful types of cruises. We also advertise them on our own website, and they're incredibly popular. We know that river cruising is absolutely booming at the minute in terms of popularity. Mm-hmm. But the main difference between a river cruise and a barge is capacity. And so a barge will have between 2 and 12 guests on board typically.
Okay.
We do have some barges that would take 22 passengers, but that is the absolute maximum. And the experience is different. And so what I would say to you is, you may look at an itinerary of a river cruise and then look at one of a barge cruise, and you may be able to draw parallels. You will probably see, let's just say if we were in South Burgundy, for example, there are river cruise ships going along the Saône, and very close by there are canal cruises happening on the Canal de Bourgogne. And you might see on both of those itineraries that you're going to go to Beaune on one of those days, and you're going to go to the Hospice de Beaune, which is an iconic site to behold, linked very much into French history, and also to the wine of the region. And but the difference being, Christina, is if you close your eyes and imagine, right, you're on a small barge that has 4 cabins, we'll say, and you step off that barge after a hearty breakfast. You go by private transfer to Beaune early in the morning, and you then walk up to the Hospice de Beaune, and you go straight in, and it's quiet, and you make your way around your guided excursion. Whereas if you were on a river ship, what would happen is there would be a mass exodus onto coaches. Right. that then, you know, then travel. And I've seen it firsthand that I might have been in the Hospice de Beaune early in the morning time and then come back out, go for a coffee, have a walk around, and then I see that there's a line around the block. And that's because the river cruise is now going to do their excursion. So this is a barge is a private, intimate experience. As I say, 2 to 12 guests on board, and everything is tailored to your own group and how you would like it to be. So there's less compromise, you know,
Okay.
and it's all about you, and it's the epitome of luxury when it comes to inland waterway cruising.
Awesome. Well, thank you for explaining it to me because I even know that like our content team who takes in the information had to make a couple tweaks because barges are new to us too. And so I'm really excited to see the rest of your presentation and learn more about it because I don't really know that much.
Thank you. And I don't mind if you call the ship, I'll let you away with it.
I'll try really hard not to, but
Try not to. So introducing French Waterways. We are a small specialist team, and we represent 55 commercial barges throughout France, and then there's a few outliers that have routes outside of France too. But France is very special because it has a maintained waterway system with the canals that is designed to allow essentially the tourist industry to thrive on the water. And so we have 55 hand-picked barges that we know inside out. We know the owners, we know the fleets, and we have insider specialist knowledge. And I think that's what makes us very different, in that we know everything about these boats. And if you have a client that has requested either a barge trip from you, or you have some high-end clients that love luxury, this is something now that you can present to them, but be confident about what you're presenting because you have a partner like us in the background to help with it. So there are 6 regions in France that we have grouped together to make it easier, and I have a map later on to show you. We're not going to do a geography trip around France. I want to give you a flavour of barging today, and then the door is open for any questions after that. But typically we have almost 50 barges in France, and then outside of that we have some barges that will cruise portions of their season in Holland, Belgium, Germany, and then we also have 1 barge in Italy, 2 in Scotland, 1 in England, and then 1 in Ireland. So if you have perhaps cruised in France before and you want to see somewhere different, we have options for that too. French Waterways is absolutely all about like fully inclusive experiences, and the barge trips, which are 6 nights long, will give you the opportunity, once you step on board, to just relax. You don't have to think anymore. After the moment that you get on board, it is all about letting your crew look after you. And so it's very important, I suppose, to know that all of the cruises that we offer, they have a certain standard, and that's a standard of service, a standard of inclusions, and it is a very special, as I said before, a very special type of cruise where in some ways when you step on board and you cross the passerelle, you're met with a champagne reception on arrival. So somebody hands you a delicious glass of bubbles and you take a very comfy seat. And from that moment on, every single detail and every item is looked after for you. You don't have to think again until you disembark. And this is very much about private luxury. And whether you come as a multi-gen family trip, whether you come with friends, or on the barges that you can book by cabin, you're coming to enjoy an intimate space that is absolutely the epitome of luxury and relaxation. And French Waterways are incredibly well trusted, not only from our own partners, our own boats that we represent, but also across the entire industry of cruising and from our clients too. I think that's a quick introduction to us as a company. And you'll see more pictures of us on barges, and it's just testament to the commitment that we make, that we know these boats firsthand, so that you don't have to as an agent. And the second thing is that, you know, we inspect boats, we maintain that we can see that the same standard has been delivered year after year, season after season, and that's what's really important. So if you're working with us to recommend a barge cruise to your clients, you can just feel rest assured that that the boat has been vetted, that the crew are fantastic, and that your clients are going to have the most wonderful time. And to follow on from that, you know, why are we special? What are the details of that? I think my mantra is that we are independent and impartial specialists. So if you think about it, you know, if I was coming to you as a fleet owner and that I owned 5 barges, and you inquired about taking clients on a barge trip, I can only offer you what I own, you know, so I can only sell you what I own. And the difference with coming to French Waterways is that we sit across the whole industry, whether it be owner-operated boats, whether it be small fleets, or quite large commercial fleets. We sit across everybody, and we know the nuances of what makes individual boats different, or what are the gold standard guarantees that you're going to get across the different barges. I think that's really important. Again, if you're going to work with a collaborator to make a booking for your clients, you need to know that you can trust these people and that they're trusted industry wide. So we have our first-hand knowledge, and you can see it's a very hard job, Christina, but we make it our business to be in France as much as we can.
Oh,
and
I feel so bad for you.
I know, I thought you would, yeah. We've got to see the roots, you know, and that's a genuine, it's a genuine thing, that we need to stand in the shoes of clients and not just read the itineraries and not just look at the pictures online, but we need to actually feel the experience for ourselves, even to the extent of for our direct clients, you know. And typically this has been a cruise that is booked by the over 50s, over 60s even, and sometimes it's important to know even how many steps are on board, you know, so that if I know my client has a mobility issue, that I can make sure that I pick a barge, perhaps one that has no steps on board, like the Savoir Vivre, and is all on one level. And just these little tiny details about knowing the clients as much as we can to make sure that we have the perfect pairing for them for their cruise, to make sure that it's as close to perfect an experience as they can ever want. And we have direct relationships with the barge owners. We would typically be on phone calls often, or WhatsApp messages. You know, this is not something that is a distant relationship. It's very much very close, and alive and ongoing. And when we're dealing with clients in the run up to their cruise, we do a lot of hand holding, and we do a lot of communication to make sure that all of the requests from the clients can be met, and that everything that would make this the absolute most perfect holiday for them is pre-arranged and all in place ahead of time. And I think that it is a passion that is deep in us, and it's not hard to be passionate about France. It's definitely not hard to be passionate about being on the water, and then you pair that with the most amazing gastronomy and wine, and I mean, it's as close to heaven as we're going to get. And I think it's also important that, you know, you don't have to take my word for it, that we are the trusted experts. If you look on our Trustpilot, you'll see we're rated at 4.7, an incredibly high score. And if you read through some of the client comments that are there from our direct clients, they say that we could not be more professional, we could not be more responsive, we could not be more helpful. And so if you imagine that that's what we can do for you as a travel agent working with your client, you know, we're behind the scenes. We're the the invisible ninja that's working behind there for you to make sure that your clients have the best time. So I think if we take a moment to just actually look at what is hotel barge cruising, and I was really conscious not to just do a list of features, you know, about the length of a barge cruise and
Right.
what is the square foot of a cabin. I think that that's all information that we can discuss offline as part of inquiry. But I wanted to sort of get across today was, what is the essence of a hotel barge cruise? What are you going to feel when you're on board? Because each barge is different, and they have different deck sizes, different salons, the cabins and suites are different sizes. And I think that you could get into a lot of that detail unnecessarily.
Mm-hmm.
But what I think is important is to sort of talk about, what is the essence of a cruise on a hotel barge on a quiet canal in France that sets it apart from a different type of cruise that you can do. And let's face it, there are wonderful cruises that you can do, whether you're on the river, ocean, it's such a popular thing to do at the minute. So hotel barging is incredibly slow paced. You're talking about a speed of around 2 to 4 kilometers an hour. So when you're traveling through the lock system in the canals in France, it's very easy to disembark at a lock, either to walk on foot or to take a bicycle and cycle the towpath. But the beautiful thing is, when you disembark and you start walking, typically your walking pace is going to be faster than the barge. So you can have this time. It's true. You can have this time for private exploration along the towpath. And, you know, the birds are singing and the bugs are buzzing, and there might be the odd blue heron comes down. And it is just the most magical, quiet time. Now, equally, you could observe all of that sitting on board the deck, maybe with your favourite tipple in hand as well, if you don't want to disembark. But it's a very, very slow pace. You may only travel between 50 and 80 kilometres in the week. And I always tell people that, you know, it's not the most articulate thing to say, but it's like going into a bubble. It's like going into a very private bubble for the week on the barge, where every single thing is taken care of for you. But when you go as a group, whether it's a family or whether you're going with your best friends, I promise you that this will ring true once you've done your barge cruise. It is the gift of time, you know, stepping on board and having a crew that do all of the thinking for you. There's no logistics involved for you. Once you step on board, every single detail is taken care of. So all you need to do is relax and spend that quality time with the people who are the most important to you in your life. And another thing about travel that I often talk about is the micro moments that it offers, because, you know, we all have the headlines of, you know, going on a big trip, and maybe you're going to see the Eiffel Tower and you're going to go to a fancy bistro in Paris or something like that. And they're the big hitters, you know, the big headliners. But I think one of the most important things that I've experienced personally whilst on barge cruises is those little micro moments with your best buddy, or in my case, even with my children, where, you know, I'm not distracted by chores or other tasks or my calendar. I'm just there in that present moment. And it's the greatest gift, really, that we can give ourselves. And I have mentioned it before, but these are private spaces. When you're cruising down the canal, you can expect people to take photographs of you and to wave. You feel, you know, there is an element of, you know, you're a VIP traveling through this area, and everybody's so friendly and welcoming, and it's lovely. You know, it's really fantastic. And because it's your cruise, you're not adhering to a strict menu. You know, you're going to put across what your preferences are for dining, and for your favourite drinks on board. All these preferences will be collected, And so essentially you get to shape how the cruise looks. You know, there is an itinerary that will be followed, and your chef, your private chef on board, will get all of your group's preferences and sculpt their menu for the week off of that. And it's very special because if there's something that you've mentioned that you love in your preferences, and then your chef is able to produce that for you from local produce, freshly made that day just for you, it's just fantastic. It's such a fantastic treat. And another way that we talk about these barges is if you imagine a small floating boutique hotel, or even a floating villa for all the world that is completely staffed. So you can jump out of bed in the morning and stroll upstairs for your coffee that will be already brewed. Pick up a fresh croissant that has been retrieved from the boulangerie earlier that day. And in the meantime, it's quite likely that somebody will be already making your bed for you. And there's just every little detail, you know, you're there to enjoy yourself. And all the rest of the mundane detail will just be taken care of behind the scenes. And I feel like when I've been on barge cruises before, the crew know what you might need before you even think that you need it yourself. So say, for example, if you've been out on an excursion and you're in the private transport back to the barge, oftentimes you'll see that the host is waiting on deck with a tray of ice water or even your favourite cocktail to welcome you back to the barge. And so before you even realise that you're thirsty, there has been a drink prepared for you. And then I think just finally on this, I think that barging does feel so special that you would nearly sort of class it as a bucket list activity or a once in a lifetime holiday. But it actually, often that's not the case, you know, and it doesn't have to be like that. We have many clients that are keen to explore different regions, either because of the different landscape or it could be because of the different wines of the region. And so what I would say is it feels like an experience that you're in a once in a lifetime experience, but there are so many other places to explore, other itineraries to explore. And so there is plenty of barging, whether you plan to come to Europe every year, every second year. Sometimes people come for family occasions, big birthdays, for anniversaries and things like that. And so most of the hotel barge cruises have what we call the classic cruise, and that would be what is offered as the main flavour of everything. So you'll get some history, you will get wine tastings, chateau visits. There will be there's usually a church thrown in there for good measure, and excursions to either prominent towns or sites from the area. And so in your classic itinerary, you do get a taste of everything that's on offer from the region. But if you are particularly interested in one thing or another, across the industry of barges, there are themed cruises on offer too. And there's quite a long list of themed cruises, but I've highlighted some of the most popular ones here. It is good to note that a themed cruise is only available for a private charter. And just to qualify, in case there's any confusion over that, some barges are only available by private charter, in which case you need to take the whole boat. And let's just say if they can accommodate up to 8 guests on board, it might be that there is a charter price for 6, 7 and 8 guests. And then there are other barges that operate both by charter and then also by cabin. And so that's what we call a hotel week. And that's where you as a couple or as 2 couples book 2 cabins on a larger barge that might accommodate 8, 10 or 12. And I think that's very much a private choice, whether you want to travel, and there are boats for just 2 as well. So if you want to come as a couple but be private, that is absolutely more than doable. But if you want to come and find like-minded friends, then booking, say, a 12-person barge like the Luciole on the North Burgundy on the Nivernais, the chances are you're going to meet other people who love a bit of Chablis, who are interested in Burgundy and as a general area, and those are the people like me that you'll end up keeping in touch with for months and even years afterwards. So the themed cruises are, as I say, just for charter bookings, but you can indeed nearly throw out all the other things and just focus on the wine of the area, and do multiple wine tastings, and in a normal classic cruise there might be 1 to 2 wine tastings throughout the week, and there is an excursion on each of your days. But you could do wine tasting every day if you wanted, if that's what your passion was. And there are so many places to be able to explore. I know, Christina, it's wonderful. And family cruises, these are more and more popular now than ever before. And we're seeing that barge cruises might have typically been for an older demographic in the past, and that the age of people barging now is coming right down. And I can testify to that. I took my family to the Canal du Midi in April this year on a family cruise. So multi-generational, and the youngest of my family was 6. And we had the most amazing time. So I think sometimes it's seen as something that is more for grown-ups, but there are so much fun things to do for children too, and my children have memories from that experience that they will never forget, and it's not the things that you necessarily think it will be. Although when our chef served the lobster bisque, I was like, not sure how my children are going to react to that. But they were nearly like Oliver Twist saying, "Please, sir, can we have some more?" So it's an amazing thing to be able to do as one of your family vacations.
I love
Biking
that too. And they're such small ships that you don't really have to worry about whether you're going to be bothering other people who are maybe taking a vacation to get away from their kids.
Yeah, no, exactly, absolutely, because this is your private space, and so it's just for you. And I think that the best thing is then just to talk to us about what barges are more suited to younger children, depending on the age, and then we'll work with the barge to make sure that they have all the amenities on board that you need, whether that be a cot, or we work out, if they're particularly small children, again, maybe you'd like a barge that doesn't have a whole lot of steps. So there's lots of things that we can do to make sure that it's the most suitable, so it's still relaxing for everybody on board.
Make sure it's completely equipped with all of the water guns and everything. I love this picture down here.
Yeah, I know, it's fun. The biking is part and parcel of barging, really. There are only 1 or 2 barges that don't carry bicycles on board, but they can be sourced if needed. And some barges will also have e-bikes as well. So I think depending on what your desire might be for cycling, again, talking to us, because some of our clients will come to us and say, we want to bike every single day. And so some of the barges that we represent have what's called a Biking Plus program that have extended route maps that they can provide, backpacks and things that, so if you go off board for a longer period of time to explore a longer route, that you might have, you could take a picnic with you and all sorts of things. So depending on how much cycling you may want to do, again, talking to us about which barges cater for that more than others is also very good. Golf is another popular one. And it might not be that everybody wants to play golf. It may be that, there might be a group of 8 people and 3 or 4 people would like to do the golf. And the rest of the party are quite happy to either stay on board or to walk the towpath or something like that. So again, depending on what the client might love, talk to us, and then we'll see how much can be tailor-made specifically to the group. And then the other thing that it's quite popular, but it's not in high supply, are Christmas markets. And it's just such a beautiful time of year to be able to cruise along and enjoy a Christmas market in one location and then another. And so there's limited supply of Christmas market cruises, and they do typically book out a good year in advance. So if that's something that is topical for your clients, talk to us as early as possible for that. I promised that we would not do a geography lesson, and even this map is so generalized it is I'd nearly get in trouble for it, to be honest. But I just wanted to give you, if you're not familiar with France, just give you an idea of when I talk about sort of 6 generalized regions of cruising. We have a high density of boats in Burgundy, and you can see there in the centre that we've Burgundy North and then Burgundy South. And on our website we do separate the boats, because there's quite a lot of them. We separate them into a north and south region of Burgundy. Canal du Midi is one of the regions that we get asked most about, and that's because it is the most well-known canal. And so lots of people will begin talking to us about the Canal du Midi, and then we hear more about their personal preferences and things that they really like, and then we can actually say, well, actually, St. Louis in Bordeaux is a better fit for your clients. And so that's the kind of thing that we would do. We would take and hear any initial inquiries and preferences, and then we get some more information to make sure that we're satisfied that that is the right recommended area. And then we go from there to recommend. Typically, we would offer no more than 3 boats as a recommendation to any one client, because it just gets overwhelming after that. Mm-hmm. So we will really try to hone down and pick what we feel are between 1 and 3 recommended boats to choose from, and then we'll take the feedback and work from there to refine it. And you can see that different regions of France look very different, and even that comes into play, that people have something in their mind's eye when they think about barging, and whether that is the plane trees in the Canal du Midi, whether that is along the Nivernais and cruising along these limestone cliffs with the Charolais cows on the other side. If there's something in somebody's mind's eye, it's good for us to know that, so that we can say, right, this is where you need to go if that's what you want to experience. And also, just to say, on the cruising regions, I think it can be really overwhelming for people if you're not a if you're not a French specialist. So hear what your clients have to say, gather all of that information, and then come to us, because that is what we are here for. And that's our daily bread and butter. What I also want to do was just, again, without going into listing off features, I think that's too easy to do, and it's a bit of a trap that people fall into. I just wanted to sort of put out ideas about who barge cruising is for, and maybe it will resonate, and maybe you'll think to yourself, actually, I have this client that actually, this sounds perfect for them, so I'm going to let them know about barge cruising now. We don't have to wait for the inquiry to come. You can go out to your network of clients, look down the list and see, who is in my luxury bracket here. Who are my top gastronomy and wine lovers? Who do I know loves going to Michelin dining experiences? Everybody that loves really great food, fine wine, step on board, because discovery is waiting for you. If you have clients that are explorers, people who love history, in the south of France, along the Canal du Midi, there's a place called Carcassonne, very famous. It's a fortified city. And it's like stepping into a Walt Disney movie, because you drive through the town, and up on the hillside, you just see this huge fortified, it looks like a big chateau, but it is enormous. It's a whole city. And And actually there is a link to Walt Disney and things like that there. But you know, if you have clients who would absolutely love to be wandering around a chateau on a private visit, you know, a private excursion, just you, or meandering around the streets of medieval towns. You know, the history in France is incredible, and it has to be seen to be believed. And if you know that you have clients that are very active, you know, people who love pedal power, then again, this is something that they might not have thought of before, you know, because maybe they're doing guided cycling trips, but actually now you can go to them and present a barge cruise that comes with bicycles, and that you can actually have extended cycle every day, just to burn off some of that wine that you're going to have at lunch. And it's also for people who want to bring family, for people who want to be together with important people in their lives. Some examples, even from the cruises that I have done this year, I cruised with a couple who were celebrating their 55th wedding anniversary. I cruised with two couples who were best friends for the past 20 years. And they were, one was celebrating a 40th wedding anniversary, another was celebrating 41 years. But one of those couples had actually been on board the same barge 10 years ago. And
Oh, wow.
so it was beautiful for me to get to join those clients on board and to share in all of that. It was just fantastic. And then, as I say, for the cabin bookings, you know, sometimes we get comments to say, you know, how will I know? It's quite a small space. You know, I'm a bit worried about joining people, and you know, people that I don't know. What if we don't get on? And I often usually say that, you know, there's so little chance of that, because these people are interested in exactly the same things as you are, and that's why they're on the cruise.
Right, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And you're getting everything that you want. I would assume everybody's in the best mood you'll ever find them in.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that, you know, you know, some of these phrases, you know, I hope that they resonate with people. It's about spending effortless time together, effortless quality time. There's no logistics involved in this. And, you know, usually whenever you go on a vacation with a group, and I'm usually that person, I'm the person that's like the logistics person, I'm organizing things. And even though everything could be organized ahead of time, you still sort of have it in your mind that you're a bit of a leader on this trip. And so you still have it that you feel a little bit of responsibility, but this just doesn't, it's not the same when you're on the barge. It's just enjoying that private time. So it's for people who want effortless quality time together, for people who value having the in moment, you know, being present in the current moment, either whether it be with friends, family, or potential new friends. Certainly, you know, all comfort seekers come aboard. It is, and this is a word that, you know, it's a word that clients have used with us. I want to be pampered, you know. I deserve to be pampered on my vacation. I've worked hard in my life, and this is precious time. And so that's why it's a word that I now, you know, I'm bringing into these presentations, because again, if a client says to you, I want a holiday where I'm going to be pampered, you know, in your head you can think hotel, barge, cruise. And the other thing is, remember I said that, you know, you travel quite a small distance in the week.
Right.
The itineraries have been crafted expertly, and you know, until you talk more to me about hotel barging, it's incredible to sort of lift the lid and understand the precision of the timings that go into the itinerary. Now, I say that with the caveat that everything is very flexible. So for the guest on board, they feel like everything is completely so flexible and as they wish. But behind the scenes, the crew are working incredibly hard, seamlessly, to make sure that all these experiences, whether it's their daily excursion, their daily cruise, or any of the meals on board or ashore, happen just so seamlessly. And it's just, it's an art form. how they do that and how it all comes together so beautifully. And then I think, you know, aside from all the busy activities that are included in the itinerary, and we haven't even gone through kind of a normal day on a barge cruise, but I think just imagine out of your client base, who would love nothing more than to sit in a comfy lounger on a sun deck with a glass of their favourite tipple in hand as the boat glides down a canal, and they hear the birds are singing, and they are just there at peace and in complete harmony. It's just amazing. And having done that with guests and clients this year, you know, we'd be chatting and then somebody would bring out their phone and they might have the Merlin app, and then we listen in real time to the bird cheeping, and then it identifies what the bird is. And you know, it's such a small moment in time, and such a shared experience that you know, I still talk about it with my friends. I said, you remember we heard that particular bird and this bird, and it's just incredible. It really is incredible. And so in terms of what a typical day on board is like for a barge cruise, usually there will be coffee, and coffee may be ready from about 7:30 and breakfast from 8, and it's a very leisurely breakfast, and there will be a spread with very fresh local croissants and pastries that have been purchased earlier that morning. Typically there'll be some fruit, yogurts, and then some barges also can do cooked breakfasts or eggs or things like that too. There's variation between them, but again, making your preferences clear help the crew on board to make sure that you have the cuisine that you most desire. And then you either will have a cruise in the morning or the afternoon. So each day there will be about 2.5 hours of cruising time, and then about 2.5 hours of an excursion. And I'm generalizing here just so you get a flavour of it. But you know, your day is broken up into 2 parts: a morning either activity and cruise, and then lunch is generally served on board at about 12 noon. Usually around 5 to 12, one of the hosts might come around and just see whether somebody would like an apéro before you sit down. So you might take a little glass of wine and then start to congregate by the lunchtime table, where there will be a wine presentation from the local region, and food will either be served to your plate, or else some of the barges do a buffet style, where you can pick from various different plates, always very colourful, the most delicious salads and meats prepared and everything. And then you will either, if you've cruised in the morning, you will go out and do your daily excursion then in the afternoon, and then come back on board for an evening cocktail, pre-dinner cocktail, something like that, and then you can be prepared for dinner and sit down and sort of revel in the exploration of the day and talk away until the night is young. So that makes up a classic day on a hotel barge cruise, and then you just lull into a gorgeous, deep, comfy sleep, and wake up and do it all the next day. If you think you have clients that are interested in a luxury hotel barge cruise, or if you just want to ask us more about barging before you might take it to your clients, feel free to ask our team anything. We do have a priority inquiry line. So if you're on your VacationPort portal, if you click to make an inquiry, it will come through to the same priority email, or you can directly email us. Either is fine. You can call us direct, have a chat on the phone, or else we also have the live chat function on the French Waterways website. So we welcome your contact in any way, shape or form, to ask questions and to make formal inquiries for your clients. And I think without further ado, I'm going to wrap up. I'm very grateful for your attention and very grateful for your input, Christina, as well today. And I'd like to open the floor for any questions that might have come in during the presentation.
Thanks so much, Rosie. And while we're waiting to see what other questions might come up, I had a couple questions for you, if that's okay.
Fire away.
So first off, just as like a, easy way to start kind of narrowing what kind of clients you said these are going to be more luxury clients. Is there like a really rough kind of starting price that advisors should be aware of?
There is, and I think with hotel barge, we do have classifications of the barges, okay, and I think that in some ways that can it can still be overwhelming for agents when they start looking at that. But in terms of price point, per person sharing in a cabin, your budget needs to be around $6,000 per person sharing at the entry level barging prices, and that would go upwards to sort of top end would be around $15,000 per person sharing at our what we call our supreme level. And that would be a Belmont bateau for people who are familiar with the brand. Belmont have a fleet of 7 barges, and so some of those barges would hit that region of cost per person.
Okay, and that would be for like 6 or 7 nights.
It's 6
Typically?
nights, so you
Okay.
would embark, yeah, on a Sunday. So typically, depending on where you're going to be picked up, but oftentimes you will have either lunchtime or early afternoon pickup on a Sunday. So all barge cruises, except for maybe about 3 boats, will begin cruising on a Sunday, and there are just, as I say, less than a handful of boats who start on a Saturday, and they do Saturday to Friday. And then so most boats will begin their cruise on a Sunday. So the aim is to get you to the barge for around about 5 p.m. For your welcome champagne reception, and the first thing that will happen is you get a safety briefing on board. All of your luggage will be put to your cabin, and then either you relax with the people that you've come with, or else you get to meet the new people that you're joining for the cruise on board. And then that's followed by your first meal on board just later that evening after you've settled in.
I love that. And actually, that price point, the entry point, is not so out of grasp. I thought it was honestly going to be a little bit more, just based on, how incredibly flexible and intimate everything is, and how it's so like you had in your presentation, bespoke. Um,
Yeah,
that's lower than I would have guessed.
I know, and the thing is that when you actually look at it as a whole, about everything that you get for that, it's incredible value for money. And you have not only between a kind of a 3 to 6 person crew looking after you for the entire week, you have your whole floating personal villa, a private excursion every single day, and also all of your meals, all of your beverages, and so and this is this is like where you might get 3 drinks tokens for the bar.
Right.
This is incredibly superior. It's not like ship credit, it's a different environment altogether. This is where nothing is too much trouble, and that and incredibly, you're right. And there are a number of barges that are around that entry level price, between the $6,000 and the $8,000 per person, where you will step off on the Saturday, the following Saturday, and you will think, what have I just experienced? It'll have been like you've been in another world. And often in the feedback that we get from clients, they say, we don't know how we're going to go back to normal life after this.
Oh my gosh, I could totally see that. You get home and you're like, excuse me, where is my glass of wine for today?
Yes, yeah.
I love
Yeah,
that.
and it is when you just mentioned the wine, this is it's an experience that you're drinking local wines from the region that have been made in the region, and it's not something that has been shipped halfway around the world.
Right.
Everything tastes better just not just the food, the wine tastes better. It's just it's hard to articulate it. And actually, sure, that you know that's my job, is to try and articulate it for everybody. But
Not an easy
you're just
job.
gonna have to take my word. Yeah, take my word for it.
Yeah, definitely. All right, we'll give people just a couple more minutes. One other question I want to ask you is, it sounds like you've had plenty of an experience on all of these different barges. Can you tell me kind of what was your favorite itinerary, or the most
Oh,
special moment you came across?
mm. That is a tough question, Christina, because um, there are so many special moments. I think that um, I've been to Burgundy a number of times now, and I've been to some of the same excursions a few times. Um, and even, and this is sort of just, it's kind of a roundabout way of answering your question, even going to visit things a second or a third time, I've seen something different or new, and it has been another new special moment. I think I have standout moments for different things. So, say for example, my most recent cruise was on the Canal de Bourgogne on a barge called the Savoir Vivre, and it's unique because it offers what we call a dinosaur program. And
Dinosaur?
sorry, dinosaur.
Oh,
So it's
dinosaur! I was trying to figure out how dinosaurs were going to work into this, but that makes a lot more sense.
I'm so sorry. It's the Irish accent, but the dine ashore. I need to articulate better. It is where you would eat at a local bistro or restaurant each evening. So in a way, with Savoir Vivre, you actually get 2 excursions per day, essentially, because you dine for breakfast and lunch on board, and then for your evening meal, you will eat somewhere different. Um, and it changes throughout the week. Sometimes, like what you might eat at somewhere that feels very fancy, and then you might eat at a bistro that feels very local. But the cuisine is fantastic and authentic and amazing. So I loved that experience, and I loved going out to dinner with my newfound friends, and people watching and things like that, and being out. But equally, in North Burgundy on the Nivernais, on a barge called Luciole, um, I think we had almost a full barge of 12 people who didn't know each other before we got on board, and the range of people's backgrounds was just fantastic. People from New Zealand, people from England, people from America, and the friendships we have now, and the text messages that still go on between that group to this day, are just fantastic. And so I love the friendship that was created with that group. I've been on some other barges where the crew are just divine, and you feel a real connection to the people. And again, you don't just get off the boat and forget about people. You make a connection with these people and you stay in touch. So there's crew members, and if I start naming names now, I'll never stop, and I'll probably get in trouble for forgetting something. It's hard to say, it's hard to say. And I have been on boats from it's hard to call it entry level. This is nothing about hotel barge entry level, but it's all of it is luxury. Every single second of it is luxury. But from our, let's call it entry level barges, all the way up to the Supreme, I've been on a range of all different types of barges, and it's often the people on board that make the itinerary special and that enhance the cuisine and all the rest of it. So sorry, I've really done poorly at answering that question, Christina.
I love that.
Yeah, there's too many good things to say.
Oh yeah. We did have one other question come in.
Mm.
This actually sort of brought me back to something I was thinking about when you were talking about, how much effort and thought is put into really every single moment. And how you were saying it's sort of like a once in a lifetime, but you can do it again. This question was about whether this would only be during certain times of the year, or do you have things sort of all year round available? I know you said you had some Christmas cruises.
It's a great question. So the normal hotel barge cruising season is April to October, and a lot of that is well, there's a few reasons why that's the season. It's the nicest time of year, so depending on what temperatures you prefer, whether you like sort of cool and crisp spring in France, and each season brings something glorious with it too. And then we do have the Christmas cruises, and so there's usually a break around about the end of October. The boats will go to dry dock, and they'll be what we call winterized, and all the improvements and enhancements and the redecorating and things like that will happen. And then the Christmas markets usually happen towards the end of November and early December.
Okay.
And
Okay.
just for those few weeks, but typically that's the season. And then there are some barges who offer value season rates. So if you're happy to go at the very beginning of the season or at the very end of the season, sometimes there are better value cabins or charters on offer. And so if you think that your client is price sensitive, then those are the questions to ask us about whether we have any of the value season weeks available.
Oh, okay. Great. Well, thank you so much, Rosie. That was honestly so educational for me. Like I said, I had no idea the difference between a ship and a barge. So I wanted to thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to do this with us. And we're so excited to have you, sorry, I'm going to say it, on board with us.
Hey, I didn't realize just how many phrases I use that are water based before before I started working with barges. Every day we have 10 times a day I talk about phrases about being on the water. So
Yeah.
you're forgiven.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you. And may I put in a suggestion that you do start working on your next theme cruise, which should be dinosaurs?
absolutely. I will put that down.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much again, Rosie, and thank you for everybody who joined us.
Thanks to you and thanks to everybody. Thank you.